Just got touched on the back. Felt like I was touched on the back.
Davidstow Airfield, located on the remote, uncompromising high ground of Bodmin Moor. Previously home to the RAF's Coastal Command, it played an important role during World War II.
Several of the team had to sort of hold me up, and I was face down in the mud.
Often playing host to unfavourable weather conditions and an eerie atmosphere as thick as the mists that roll across the landscape.
It feels like a hive of activity. There's a lot of spirits around here.
During the base's 1942 to 1945 opening, flying conditions were unsuitable for large portions of the base's operation, resulting in the tragic circumstances of aircraft crashing into high ground. A base of operations for Coastal Command saw coordinated attacks on German U-boats and anti-shipping patrols. Continuing my investigation at one of Cornwall's most haunted military locations. This is Encounters.
The British met the challenge by throwing in everything they had.
They were smashing the whole Nazi plan of world conquest.
The United States Air Force first made use of the airfield when it went into operation in 1942, and at that time, it boasted the longest runway in the country. Coastal Command soon took over operations, but heavy bombers from both Britain and the US flew missions out of here. Historian Ian Cooper tells us a bit more about the duties of Coastal Command.
Main purpose for Coastal Command was to prevent an amphibious German assault on the UK mainland, as well as to prevent U-boat attacks on the crucial supply chain that was supporting the Allied war effort in Europe.
7th of June 1944, the A524 Squadron, alongside the D524 Squadron, had been ordered to carry out anti-E-boat patrols in the English Channel. Upon their return, Command instructed both squadrons to land at Chivenna due to dangerously low visibility here at Davidstow. D524 did that without incident, but TD Young attempted to land here and fatally crashed. A bomb which hung up inside the bomb bay exploded on impact, killing all 6 men on board.
Any claims, Johnny? 109 destroyed, Freddie, yes. Oh, good show.
Are the spirits of these brave men still on active duty? Perhaps unaware of their untimely demise. On the site of the airfield's former living quarters now stands the Davidstow Airfield and Cornwall at War Museum. Today the artefacts of past and present conflicts can be found here at this base. Steve Perry, the museum's owner, recalls the day he realised that the site houses a lot more than historical items when a young visitor encountered one of the otherworldly residents.
The chap came down to the guard room to tell me that his 12-year-old daughter is in a bad state up near the Ferragana aeroplane. So I thought perhaps she'd have a fit or something. But oh no. The pilot is there with her. And he's pacing around all over the place in his flying suit, and he's most upset because his airplane ain't ready to fly. And this 12-year-old girl is there, and this pilot's there. She's impervious to everybody else, the public that are moving behind her. She got no knowledge of them.
It's not uncommon for objects to contain the energy of those that once owned, used, or wore the items, especially if they are linked to high emotional or traumatic events. Whether or not it's residual energy left behind by the former owners, or a haunting by a spectral entity, is still up for debate. It is more than likely both, depending on the circumstances of the item in question. This museum keeps thousands of such objects dating as far back as 1914, right up to the present day. The spirit attachment to these items sees airmen and soldiers passing through the former base with common occurrence. Ian Batchelor, a paranormal investigator, tells us of the night he came into physical contact with an unearthly presence during a session in the German room.
They got a few bayonets actually, and we picked one out, and it turned out to be a German bayonet, and I was quite affected by that. I actually collapsed, or went to collapse, and several of the team had to sort of hold me up, and I was face down in the mud, and apparently this was traced back to a German soldier.
Prior to my main investigation later tonight, I've decided to set a number of experiments going in a few of the site's more active areas. I've invited Mark Rablin, paranormal investigator, to conduct one of these experiments in the hope of inducing some activity from the reported entities that reside in the German room.
I'm dressed as a paratrooper medical officer, a first lieutenant, in the German Air Force. And it's great because lots of the objects in this building here have history. They are connected to the people that owned them, and that energy stays with them through time. So if we can connect differently with the environment, it all adds to the experience that we get. So it's slightly different to be dressed as a German officer on a British airfield, but you know, sometimes this can trigger a nice response, and it connects with certainly the German artifacts that are behind me.
You can watch how Mark got on here in Encounters Extra. What was once the base's mess hall, now named the ballroom, recreates the atmosphere of what leisure time may have been like for all the men stationed here. Kevin Hines, paranormal investigator and medium, gives me an insight into what to expect in the ballroom during my investigation.
It feels like a hive of activity. There's a lot of spirits around here that have been witnessed in the past, and I must say, definitely here now with us. I feel that the way these mannequins actually dressed up now is going to indeed inspire a lot of spirits to come forward. I think they enjoy it. I think they enjoy the way the room's actually laid out. It makes sense. This is where they would come to commiserate fellow colleagues that have passed in action. Also, this is where they had a bit of downtime. So it's jovial atmosphere in here, and it does feel like that sometimes. And I must admit now, it does feel quite upbeat. That's the sort of feeling I'm getting. Very busy.
0100 hours. I've set up in the ballroom for the third session of my investigation. This is the ballroom. As you can see, it's full of mannequins. In an effort to encourage some activity, I try some Singapore theory. I play music relevant to the time period associated with this location. In this case, big band sounds from the 40s. It's not long before the sound recorder detects an EVP. I didn't hear it at the time, and I was amazed when I later reviewed what was captured here. To me, it sounds like a woman's voice, reacting to the song with surprise. Perhaps it was a favourite of hers. Listen again. Feeling that the Singapore theory has done its job, and being aware that it could potentially mask any paranormal noises that may occur in the room, I decide to turn the music off. No other EVPs were picked up during its run. It seems I made the right decision when moments later I ask a series of questions and hear a noise at the far end of the room. Would you like me to play more music for you? Please give me a sign. Thank you. That was you. We've enhanced the audio. Thank you. That was you. Less than a minute later, I again request for some interaction, and again a sound can be heard in the same area as before. Maybe you could throw something instead so I can confirm it's you. Well, we have two devices. There's one on the bar. It's lit up red. if you can walk towards that and interact with it, it will make a sound, hopefully. Okay, thank you. Is it caused by an unearthly presence, or are they simply environmental sounds? What do you think? Okay, thank you. Next, I fire up the thermal imager and proceed to scan the ballroom for abnormal heat sources. So this is where all the mannequins are, in this area here. Reset itself. That's the REM pod. Interesting. There's a heat source over there. What's that heat source over there? There's a heat source over by the mannequins. That's a little interesting. A torch. On his jacket. The medals on the mannequin's jacket is giving off a heat source. Look at that. Why? As I scan the rest of the room, it's worth pointing out that although metal can retain and conduct heat, no other metal contained within either the ballroom structure or anything else in the room shows any signs of heat. Only our detection devices, the medals on the mannequin's jacket, and cameras display any signs of warmth. All around this area here are mannequins, and this mannequin has temperature. You may have noticed that while investigating the medals, a metallic sound can be heard in the background. Let's go back and take a listen. What is that heat source over there? It appears to sound like something was brushing against the railings. What do you think? Is anyone here? Want to communicate with me? Please? As I take a moment before finishing up my session in the ballroom, another clear sound presents itself. Listen again. Are the many noises I've heard in here tonight produced by wandering spirits of the long-dead wartime heroes, or something altogether more tangible? I'll let you make up your own mind. 0316. I've moved over to the German room where Mark had earlier conducted his experiment. Let's come forward now. Just want to have a chat. Are you connected to any of the memorabilia in this room? I make a request for interaction with the devices and for sounds to be made. A slight noise to my right gets my attention. You'll see me turn my head. A clear click sound is picked up by the audio recorder situated on the cabinet in that very area. I'd like to interact with the K2s with the REM pods. The REM pods. The REM pods. The REM pods. So far, as this session has proven to be a fairly quiet one, I've decided to run a spirit box session.
Have you got a message for me?
As I wait for a response to my questions, I catch something in the corner of my eye.
Is that you lost in the REM pod there? Yes. Can you do it again, please?
The REM pod on the floor is flashing and beeping with a regular rhythm.
Thank you. Have you got a message for me? Can you put more than just a green light on, please?
With my interest at the time focused solely on the REM pod, I neglect to hear the relevant words, including Davidstow, that the spirit box begins to dish out.
Is it Morse code? Can you light all the lights up, please?
Upon review, the words seem to suggest an entity wants help, urging me to look somewhere, either in this room or somewhere on these grounds. Something certainly wants my attention. As I study the REM pod, something attempts to make physical contact with me. As you can see by my reaction, it takes me completely by surprise, sending chills racing down my spine.
Just got touched on the back. Felt like I was touched on the back.
I can only describe it as a feeling of being prodded in the shoulder blade. Is this spirit playing with me, or is it desperate for me to notice it?
My pod is flashing green, like a beacon, like a military beacon. You got a message for me? What is your message? Are you able to talk to me through this device? Will you communicate with us tonight? Can you make the REM pod flash green now, please?
Ironically, when I ask for increased interaction with the REM pod, the opposite occurs. The word Walker has been repeated numerous times. Is Walker the surname of a troubled spirit in need of help? And where is it that he wants me to look?
So interestingly enough, the REM pod has stopped. It's getting heavy. Beware. Beware? What do you want me to beware of?
The temperature has dropped significantly. I'm just going to put my coat on, I think, and then I'll take you through a new piece of tech we're going to use. I still have a bit more time left here in the German room, so I decide to run a session with multiple devices set up. I have the K2, the REM pod, an Ovilus app on my phone, and the Ghost Hunter app's Impossible box. I'm hoping that with all these devices running together, any evidence I get can be cross-referenced upon review later. I request for a German officer to step forward. Seconds later, the Impossible box offers a short sentence. German officers that were here seem to have gone very quiet. It's only after reviewing the footage that it sounds like it could be a German phrase. I run the sentence through a translator app and sure enough, it comes back with a few words in German. Ich bin hier, meaning I am here, followed by what could be possibly the name Klaus. I'm not sure. Take a listen and tell us what you think. Come forward now. I get another great response from the Impossible box. Again, it sounds like German. Can you translate it? You may have noticed that throughout this second part of my session, here in the German room, the K2 meter on the left-hand side of the display cabinet has been blinking intermittently. It is only just now that I notice it. It seems to be a similar pattern to the REM pod activity I got a bit earlier. The signal is weak, but the K2 is clearly picking up on something. Could it be interference from other devices? Or is there a spirit here in the room with me, intent on getting my attention? Is this an attempt at sending a coded message? Perhaps it's Morse code? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. With my attention now turned towards this side of the cabinet, I ask for whatever may be setting off the K2 to step forward and interact with the lights on the device. Can you go up to 3 lights? The moment you just flashing the 2, walk towards the green lights, please. After requesting further interaction with the K2, the response I get is simply amazing. Hello? Is that you walking towards the green lights? Whatever sets a REM pod off, it's with significantly more force than earlier. Coincidence? Or is it something interacting with the REM pod? I'll let you decide, but it doesn't stop there. I pose another question and receive what seems to be direct responses, first through the Ovilus and then the Impossible box. Hello? Is that you walking towards the green lights? Yes? I'd really appreciate if you could do that again, please. This can only be described as a direct response to my request to step forward. The combination of all these devices interacting is staggering. With the German room session drawing to a close, I present a summary to the camera, only to be rudely interrupted by the forces that dwell within these walls. Once again the REM pod goes off, sending me on my way with a hair-raising farewell. Maybe we've got something. Got that on camera. Battle of Britain. Did you like that up because it talks about the Battle of Britain?
And some of the spirits have come forward and have made themselves known to us.
Can you stop, please? Can you stop?
Spirits seem to use that area even today.
We can be here 5 minutes and all hell breaks loose.
She awoken suddenly to the sound of an aircraft barreling into the concrete.
You definitely feel like you're being watched. You're not alone, you're not alone.
Well, that's the end of another investigation and another episode. Did you enjoy it? Give us a thumbs up. Also, we want to hear about what you thought of it, the evidence. Please put your answers or thoughts into the comments box below. And why not subscribe for future content?